Hi everybody, this is Royce at the Concord Free Public Library, and today I'm with my two friends, Stu and Michael, who are the architects of our brand new building project for the new children's room and the new makerspace, which will be opening in the fall. So, welcome Michael and Stu, and thank you for coming.
Thanks for having me.
And I had a couple questions for you guys today. So the first question is, what's it like to be an architect, and what's a typical day like for you?
So I'll talk about being an architect a little bit. The thing that I like about being an architect is that it takes lots of different skills. It's a little bit of art, it's a little bit of science and engineering, it's a little bit of business, it's a little bit of all kinds of things. And so that means that the kinds of things you do can be, very varied. And your day can be very varied because you're working on different kinds of things. And that's one of the great things I think about being an architect, is that you get to do lots of different kinds of things.
Yeah, some days you're wearing a construction hat, touring the site, right?
That's right.
Other days you're just working at your desk, maybe from home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think, to that point, there's not necessarily a typical day. It can be, you could be, like I said, at your desk doing something. You could be in meetings. You could be out on the site, at a construction site. So there's a lot of different typical days.
Yeah. How did you become an architect? What steps did you take to become an architect?
So my father was a builder. He built houses, and we lived in the neighborhood where he built houses. So I was always around construction from, before I can remember. And I was a kid who always liked to make stuff. And so I always liked art, and I liked science. And I ended up coming back here to go to school, thinking I was going to go into science. But when I got into college, I realized that all the stuff I thought was really cool was in design and architecture. So that's kind of how I ended up there. But my background goes way back. I'm a kid. I'm somebody who liked to build stuff as a kid.
Yeah. And how about you?
Yeah, kind of similar, but one generation removed. My grandfather was a home builder and a carpenter, so wasn't as exposed, but would go to construction sites with him on occasion, and was very interested. As a little kid, I wanted to be a carpenter, and as I got a little bit older, I decided I'd rather be drawing it than building it, I guess. So moved to be more interested in architecture. But yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, just like any of the, whether I guess it's on the architecture or the construction side, there's a lot of, like Stu said, there's a lot of art and a lot of science and a lot of things that get married together. But the process for becoming an architect would be, after you get through, elementary and high school, and then go off to college and study architecture is really the way to do it.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's interesting. So you touched on this a little bit, Stu. As a kid, did you like to design buildings?
So yes, I did. I have to say, I liked making stuff. My favorite toys were like Tinker Toy sets and Erector sets and little construction sets. So I loved to sort of design and build little buildings. I never liked building the ones out of the books. I always wanted to make up my own. But I always liked doing that stuff as a kid, yeah.
And how about you, Michael?
Yeah, I did. I really loved to draw as a kid. So I loved to draw, buildings and cities, and sometimes draw maps and that sort of stuff. So that was something I really enjoyed as a kid.
Yeah. And so, Stu, you said your favorite toys were Tinker Toys and Erector sets when you were growing up. How about you, Michael?
I like, in terms of stuff that pertains to architecture, I definitely liked Legos were a big thing, and just sort of like a bin full of Legos. I think my brother and I were both very interested in Legos, and so we'd get whatever the kit was. We'd build it one time and then break it apart and put it in the bin, and then it was just kind of a free for all after that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, so we have a special book for kids today that Michael has brought. And Michael, this is your own book.
Yes.
This is Peck Architect
Yep.
by
And-
Andrew Beatty.
Yeah, and it's illustrated by David Roberts.
Okay.
Young Iggy Peck is an architect, and he has been since he was 2, when he built the great tower in only an hour with nothing but diapers and glue. "Good gracious, Ignatius," his mother exclaimed. "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." But her smile faded fast and a light wind blew past, and she realized those diapers weren't clean. "Ignatius, my son, what on earth have you done? That's disgusting and nasty. It stinks." But Iggy was gone. He was out on the lawn, using dirt clouds to build a great sphinx. When Iggy was 3, his parents could see his unusual passion would stay. He built churches and chapels from peaches and apples, and temples from modeling clay. At dinner one night, to his father's delight, Iggy got a bright gleam in his eye, and out on the porch built the St. Louis Arch from pancakes and coconut pie. Dear Ig had it made until 2nd grade, when his teacher was Miss Lila Greer. On the very first day, she had this to say: "We do not talk of buildings in here. Gothic or Romanesque, I couldn't care less about buildings ancient or new." She said in her lecture about architecture that it had no place in grade 2. That might seem severe, but she was sincere, for when she was no more than 7, she'd had a great fright at a dizzying height in a building so tall it scraped heaven. On an architect's tour of the 95th floor, young Lila got lost from the group. She was found 2 days later in a stuck elevator, eating cheese with a French circus troupe. After that day, it's quite safe to say she thought all building lovers were nuts. As a teacher, she taught that above all, one ought to avoid them. No ifs, ands, or buts. As you might guess, it would cause Iggy stress to hear such terrible talk. But he didn't hear. He sat in the rear while building a castle of chalk. "You, Iggy Peck, your desk is a wreck. Tear down that castle right now. You will not build in here. Is that perfectly clear? Do you need to see Principal Howe?" "No, ma'am," Iggy said. He lowered his head, and his heart sank down to the floor. With no chance to build, his interest was killed. Now 2nd grade was a bore. After 12 long days that passed in a haze of reading, writing, and arithmetic, Miss Greer took the class to Blue River Pass for a hike and an old-fashioned picnic. They crossed an old trestle to a small island nestled in the heart of a burbling stream. But they no sooner passed than the footbridge collapsed, and Miss Lila Greer started to scream. "We're trapped here, oh my! Alas, kids, goodbye!" Her eyeballs rolled back in her head. She dropped to the ground with a vague groaning sound. Luckily fainted, not dead. The class was amazed. They stood there quite dazed, uncertain of what they should do. But one young bright man was off hatching a plan, which started with Miss Lila's shoe. Soon each lad and lass there at Blue River Pass was working together as one. And when she came to, Miss Lila Greer knew that something quite brave had been done. She looked in the air and saw hanging there a structure with cables and braces, and on the far side, beaming with pride, were 17 smiling young faces. Boots, tree roots and strings, fruit roll-ups and things, some of which one should not mention, were stretched ridge to ridge in a glorious bridge, dangling from shoestring suspension. It all became clear to Miss Lila Greer as she crossed that bridge over the stream. There are worse things to do when you're in grade 2 than to spend your time building a dream. Now every week at Blue River Creek, elementary and second grade, all the school kids can hear, along with Miss Greer, how the world's greatest buildings were made. The weekly guest speaker in t-shirt and sneakers talks of buildings from Rome to Quebec. Of course, he's the guy who builds towers from pie, that brilliant young man, Iggy Peck. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, Michael.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about it is going to be the garden that's outside,
Yeah.
because we have a nice reading room, place where people can sit and read books, but it looks right out on the garden space. So one of the things I'm really excited about is the way the garden ties to the inside of the children's.
Yeah, fabulous. Yeah.
Yeah, that was going to be the same thing. I'd say that space I think will be really nice. The connection to the outdoor.
Yeah.
I think another thing that will be nice is that it's going to be made up of a few different spaces. You know, that's one. There's a story room. So I think it'll feel nice, and that there will be different spaces for kids to kind of find different things to do and be interested in.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were just in the new activity room, which is under construction, and I think it's going to be a really fun space. It's a nice, big, tall space. It'll be a great place for children's programs.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.